Today we bring a devastating piece of news surrounded by mystery and controversy about one of the most beloved figures on American television, Robin Roberts, the legendary host of Good Morning America. Behind the smile that captivated millions of viewers for decades lies a much more complex reality, made up of silent struggles, internal tensions, and decisions that nearly changed the course of her career forever. Many remember her courage in facing cancer and returning to the studio with renewed strength, but few know what was happening behind the scenes. Sources close to the situation claim that the backstage environment at the show was often the stage for heated arguments, power struggles, and pressure from ABC's top executives, putting Robin in extremely delicate situations. Rumors that she might be replaced circulated during critical moments, and her relationship with some colleagues is said to have deteriorated to the point of affecting the atmosphere in the studio. Controversial editorial decisions and ethical conflicts also marked turbulent chapters in her journey, raising serious questions about how far the truth can go in televised journalism. Now, new revelations are coming to light, and what's about to be exposed could completely change Robin Roberts' public image and the future of Good Morning America itself. So before we continue, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. YouTube only recommends videos to users who really engage, and your like is essential to keep this kind of content reaching you. If you'd like to support the channel even more and help us continue to bring exclusive stories and deep investigations, click the super thanks button below. But if you can't, no problem. Just leave a comment telling us which part of this story surprised you the most, because your opinion is what keeps this space alive. Stay until the end, because the final revelation will leave you completely shocked, and it might forever change the way you see Robin Roberts. Robin Renee Roberts was born on November 23, 1960, officially in Tuskegee, Alabama, but she spent her childhood and teenage years in Pass Christian, Mississippi. She was the youngest of four siblings, Sally Ann, Lawrence Jr., Butch, and Dorothy, and grew up under the strong influence of parents who instilled in her values of discipline, determination, and faith. Her father, Lawrence E. Roberts, was a United States Air Force colonel and a member of the historic Tuskegee Airmen, the African-American pilots who served during World War II and faced institutionalized racism within the American military. Her mother, Lucy Marion (née Tolliver), was actively involved in public education in Mississippi and even served on the State Board of Education. Robin's childhood unfolded in a region deeply marked by racial segregation in the American South, where opportunities for young black boys and girls were limited in many areas. Still, the Roberts family worked hard to build a household rooted in faith, excellence, and service. At school, Robin showed early aptitude both academically and athletically. She attended Pass Christian High School, where she graduated as salutatorian, second highest GPA in her class, in 1979. She was active in basketball and other sports and became a standout athlete in her local community. When considering her future, Robin initially thought about pursuing a career in athletics, but she also had a natural gift for communication and journalism. After high school, she chose to attend Southeastern Louisiana University in Hammond, Louisiana, where she majored in communications and graduated with honors in 1983. Her college years were defined by dedication and resilience. She played college basketball and achieved impressive feats, becoming one of the top scorers and rebounders in the history of the university's women's basketball program. Interestingly, Robin has shared that she chose Southeastern by chance, after visiting Louisiana State University and finding the campus too big and impersonal. She happened to see a sign for Southeastern on the way back, stopped in to check it out, and ultimately decided to attend, even though the scholarship she was initially offered was for tennis. She believed that a journalism scholarship would open up for her later in the program. Her strong work ethic, competitive spirit, and the inner drive instilled by her family helped her break through social and structural barriers that many black women of the time faced in academic and athletic spaces. These roots, built on faith, resilience, education, the fight against institutional racism, and high aspirations, would serve as the emotional and psychological foundation that would sustain Robin Roberts through the storms that life would later bring. Her upbringing in a region historically shaped by segregation, her family's unwavering dignity and expectations of success, and her early talent in both sports and the written word became decisive elements in shaping her life philosophy. If you fall, get back up. To her, every adversity, if confronted with the right mindset, could be transformed into momentum. After graduating, Robin Roberts began her journalism career working in small-town and local TV stations. In 1983, she started as a sports reporter and anchor for WMTV in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Shortly afterward, she worked at WLOX-TV in Biloxi, Mississippi, and later at WSMV-TV in Nashville, Tennessee. Between 1988 and 1990, she was at WAGA-TV in Atlanta, where she solidified her presence as a sports reporter and anchor. In 1990, she joined ESPN, which became a turning point in her career. She primetime and other major sports broadcasts. Throughout this period, Roberts built a loyal audience and earned a reputation for versatility, professionalism, and charisma, qualities that helped her stand out in a field historically dominated by men. In 1995, she began contributing to ABC News, becoming an occasional reporter for Good Morning America. In 2005, she was officially invited to become co-anchor of GMA, alongside other high-profile journalists, a move that catapulted her to national fame. Her presence on the show became notable for blending journalistic authority with deep empathy and humanity, connecting with viewers not just through the news, but as someone they felt was talking with them through the screen. During her time on Good Morning America, Robin took part in major stories, interviewed important public figures, covered large-scale events, and reported on both national and international crises. Her credibility was further strengthened by the fact that she did not completely separate her personal story from her reporting, often sharing with viewers the difficult moments she was experiencing related to health, personal loss, or uncertainty, which gave her storytelling a unique emotional depth rarely seen in broadcast journalism. For example, during the coverage of Hurricane Katrina, she returned to her hometown of Pass Christian, and when she witnessed the devastation firsthand, she cried on live television, revealing that she was not just a journalist, but a daughter of that community. In parallel with her on-screen work, she also expanded her role as a media producer. In 2014, she founded Rockin' Robin Productions, a company dedicated to inspirational and thematic television and digital projects, including documentaries, series, and special features. Roberts also published books such as Everybody's Got Something from the Heart, 7 Rules to Live By, and Brighter by the Day, Waking Up to New Hopes and Dreams, in which she shares her personal struggles, life lessons, and outlook on life. Her contributions to journalism were recognized with several honors, including the prestigious Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism, her induction into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and other major accolades. However, Roberts' rise to professional success was not without its challenges, such as being a black woman in predominantly white environments, facing gender stereotypes in sports journalism, enduring constant media scrutiny, staying visible and relevant in a fast-paced industry, and balancing personal life with studio demands. Even so, she built a strong personal brand based on integrity, thoughtful vulnerability, and commitment to social causes, including bone marrow donation after her own diagnosis, women's empowerment, and advocacy for minority voices. Her journey shows that Roberts didn't reach the top solely because of technical talent, but because of the way she transformed her own story, her pain and triumphs, into bridges with the audience. One of the most dramatic phases in Robin Roberts' life began in 2007, when she was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. In a courageous decision, she publicly announced her diagnosis on Good Morning America, with her colleague Diane Sawyer by her side, saying she was willing to turn her darkest moment into a platform for awareness. During treatment, she had to face the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation therapy, including hair loss, a moment loaded with strong symbolism. Shaving her head became a gesture of resistance and acceptance in the face of pain. In interviews and in her book Everybody's Got Something, Roberts spoke openly about fear, tears, the feeling of vulnerability, and the need to sustain faith amid uncertainty. For years, she recovered and returned to her work. But in 2012, another blow came. She was diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome, MDS, a bone marrow condition often associated with aggressive chemotherapy treatments. Upon receiving the MDS diagnosis, clouded by the severity of the condition, she was informed that without a bone marrow transplant, her life expectancy was short. The search for a compatible donor became a race against time, and fortunately, her sister Sally Ann was a match. The transplant was successfully performed but required months of recovery, with risks of rejection, infections, and intensive medical care. It was a phase of slow rebirth and painful physical and emotional reinvention. Behind the scenes, Robin faced doubts about relapse, fears of fragility, and the pressure to resume a life rhythm that would never be quite the same. She repeatedly said that healing is not the end of the story, that survival required constant adjustments, self-awareness, and humility. The experience also turned her into a spokesperson for bone marrow donation campaigns and raising awareness about the importance of donor registries. Many credit her case with dramatically increasing the number of registered donors in the United States. In the meantime, a painful personal event unfolded. Her mother, Lucy Marion, was gravely ill, and just as Robin was preparing for the critical transplant moment, her mother passed away. Robin recounted that she had to leave immediately to be by her mother's side in her final moments, holding her hand while facing the impossible choice between saving myself and being with my mother until the end. This simultaneous loss of her threatened health and her maternal figure marked a deep symbolic moment, life reinventing itself while part of her emotional foundation disappeared forever. Her return to Good Morning America came in February 2013 after a prolonged medical leave. The comeback was celebrated in the studio but also carried the silent weight of someone who had passed through the threshold of death. She did not completely escape the physical, immunological, or psychological aftereffects but continued working with greater humility, clearer priorities, and above all, a stronger voice for personal and collective causes related to health, hope, and awareness. This third act of life, surviving cancer, surviving bone marrow disease, surviving the loss of her mother, consolidated in the collective imagination the image of Robin Roberts not only as a recognized journalist but as a symbol of resilience, human presence, visible vulnerability, and service transformed through struggle. Despite her public visibility, Robin Roberts has always been discreet about her private life. For many years, her sexual orientation was the subject of speculation. She and Amber Lane, a massage therapist, had been in a relationship since 2005, but Roberts only spoke openly about her sexuality in December 2013, confirming that she is a lesbian. This public announcement was seen by many as a moment of liberation, but also a challenge as it involved reconciling the image she had built with her authentic inner identity in a media environment historically marked by strong heteronormative views. The relationship between Roberts and Amber faced health battles over the years, as Amber was also diagnosed with breast cancer. Roberts, who had already overcome this type of cancer, now found herself on the other side, as a partner and caregiver amid uncertainty. This emotional turn demanded renewed strength, empathy, and vulnerability from her. The openness to talk about a long-term relationship, which included living separately by choice of both, revealed nuances of commitment different from the traditional model. They maintained separate homes and affirmed that this strengthened their relationship. In 2023, after nearly 2 decades together, Roberts and Amber held an intimate wedding in their garden with close friends and family. The ceremony was celebrated with tenderness and symbolism, during which Roberts said that putting the vows on paper was like giving a new chapter to a story that had already been lived for many years. Despite celebrating this moment, Roberts never turned it into an exaggerated media spectacle. She kept many details private and allowed the focus to be on the joy of the union, not the show. However, the fact that her sexuality was kept private for so long left room for speculation, rumors, and criticism on social media. Some critics claimed that she hid her identity as a career calculation. Others admired the courage of the moment of public coming out. She has always stated that she did not want her sexuality to become the focus of her professional life. Rather, she wanted her story of overcoming, service, and empathy to be at the center. This delicate balance between authenticity and personal narrative strategy reveals how Roberts navigated visibility and retreats, the desire to protect her privacy, and the responsibility to inspire those who identify with her. There are media or tabloid rumors about tensions with colleagues, for example, that she had banned Amy Robach and TJ Holmes from her wedding after the love scandal involving them while working at GMA. However, these allegations were not confirmed by reliable sources, and Roberts has never officially commented on this incident. This uncertainty between rumor and silence is typical of how celebrities handle personal controversies. Some prefer public protest, others opt for protective silence. Other unverified rumors speak, for example, of avoided recordings or declined interviews out of fear of exposing too much of certain internal truths, but there are no trustworthy documents confirming these supposed backstage stories. Roberts' private life thus highlights contemporary tensions, that of a public person who wants to be authentic but not reduce her identity to labels, of someone who wants to protect those she loves and preserve private moments, and of a figure who, because of her trajectory of pain and overcoming, is constantly called, by herself or others, to symbolize more than just herself. Although Robin Roberts enjoys wide admiration and an untarnished reputation, she has not been entirely immune to the natural tensions of fame, speculation, and the dilemmas of being a public figure in times of voracious media. First, it is important to note that she is not deceased, as of today, 2025. She is alive and active. Therefore, there is no tragedy of her death to narrate, but signs of symbolic death appear in her accounts of loss, of her mother, of anonymity, of parts of herself that illness, grief, and time have taken away. In her own narrative, she speaks of internal, walking dead, fears, doubts, and vulnerabilities that persist even after beating cancer or surviving the bone marrow disease. Regarding public controversy, reports are scarce and often limited to social media, blogs, and speculation. A frequently repeated rumor is that Roberts excluded Amy Robach and TJ Holmes from her wedding after the love scandal involving them, a move to not allow adulterers at her celebration. This kind of rumor circulates in gossip forums but does not appear in credible journalistic records or interviews with Roberts. The lack of official confirmation makes the controversy mild, more rumor than scandal, yet it still shows how closely her life is scrutinized under external expectations. There are also unverified allegations circulating in conspiracy-driven social media about strange videos or episodes. For example, comments about an alleged video where Roberts appears in an acute emotional state, saying, "If something happens to me, it wasn't suicide," followed by police intervention and psychiatric hospitalization. However, there is no reliable corroboration of these stories in respected journalistic outlets, and they should be treated with extreme skepticism. Moreover, like every public person, Roberts faces criticism from those who think she overexposes her suffering, those who question whether she capitalizes on her illness journey to gain visibility, or those who feel she sometimes overloads interviews with emotionalism. These debates are typical of figures who combine journalism and personal experience, and Roberts, by choice, often blends both worlds. Critics may argue that this too closely merges the public self with the private self, and that there is risk in mixing reporting with performance. However, Roberts has always maintained that her intentional vulnerability brings the public closer to difficult topics and humanizes the coverage. Symbolic losses throughout her career are also part of the dramatic contours of her biography. The loss of her mother at the most critical moment of her own fight, for example, remains a permanent weight. The gradual loss of the normalcy before illness, spontaneity, the feeling of invincibility, is something she describes in her books as a longing that remains even after cure. The death of her father in 2004, before her diagnoses, also marks a milestone. He was a figure of authority, an example of soaring high as a Tuskegee Airman pilot, and his absence left space for Robin to assume her own symbolic fatherhood in her life's journey. But her emotional legacy goes beyond losses. It is built in the way she transformed wounds into voice, how she shared fear to rekindle hope in others, in the courage to maintain visibility while protecting an intimate core, and in the concrete impact she had on health campaigns, bone marrow donor registrations, and inspiration for those facing serious illnesses. Even controversies that arise, unconfirmed rumors, backstage speculations, become overshadowed by the consistency of her trajectory of struggle, dignity, and service. She remains a public figure who exemplifies that narrating one's own suffering with honesty can create meaning not only for the storyteller but also for those who listen. And so we've come to the end of this video with a truly touching story about Robin Roberts, one of the most beloved hosts of Good Morning America. Over the years, Robin has faced intense battles, both personally and health-wise, always with incredible courage, openness, and humanity. This latest news is another difficult chapter in her journey, and it surely touched many hearts around the world. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for your attention and sensitivity. If this story moved you, or if you admire Robin's strength as much as we do, please give T-Video a like. It really helps the channel grow and brings this kind of content to more people. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get all the updates on celebrities, inspiring stories, and news that truly matters. Here, you'll always find content made with respect, empathy, and depth. And now, we want to hear from you. What did you think about this situation? Were you already familiar with Robin Roberts' journey? Which moment in her life impacted you the most? Leave your comment down below. Your opinion means a lot to us, and we love seeing your participation in the videos. Before you go, take a look at the video appearing on your screen right now. If you found this video emotional, the next one will grip you even more. It's an even more intense, captivating story full of twists that will surely impress you. Click now and stay with us. Thank you again so much, and see you in the next video.